them, whether I'm trying to educate them, whether I'm trying to pursue them, what exactly I'm trying to do, because based on that, I'll do the rest of the things. Okay, because my language will be different. See, the thing is that if when you are trying to convince a group of people to buy your software or to some people told that you have to raise your voice and the way you connect all these things, but then at the same time it also includes your planning. Okay, because based on the number you are going to conduct a certain kind of activity. Okay, say for example, many a time you must have seen that at the beginning of their presentation or maybe at the midway through their presentation, the presenter is conducting some kind of activity. That activity can be asking for opinion. Say for example, in the previous class I asked your opinion about your idea of good teacher, so that's the kind of opinion that I'm asking. That's an activity which is part of the presentation. And because it's a small class, I know that there are generally 27, 28 people present, and maybe 1/3 or half of the people will respond. So I know that I can make this activity. But then imagine it's a 500 people, I can't do that. And then there are other things like, about if it's a group of 100 people, maybe you can take voting. Okay, you can ask that, do you think that a good presenter should have good communication skill? If you think yes, please raise your hand. Because with 100 people, you can't ask this opinion. So you have to go for this yes, no type question, voting mainly. Because 100 people, some people will raise their hand. Maybe you can quickly have a rough count. But then you can't do it with 500 people. For 500 people, you can't take this raising your hand and voting, because you won't be able to count it. So in that case, what you will have to do, you have to do the same thing. Instead of raising your hand, you have to say, can you say yes? So the louder the yes is, the better the response. Okay, the better the agreement. So that's that. Wow. Many a time you can't do it in such an open manner. Say, for example, you are doing with something which is little taboo. Taboo means, people are not very comfortable talking about it. Say, for example, you are doing a presentation on domestic violence. So you can't ask your audience, can you raise your hand? How many of you have experienced domestic violence? Because know that not many will raise their hand. You can't even ask them, can you please stand up and speak? Or maybe can you please say yes? You can't do that thing. Okay, so in that case, you have to keep it anonymous. How do you make it anonymous? You give everyone a sheet of paper and you tell them that please write down your experience or yes or no without writing your name. The way I conducted feedback at the beginning of second semester, you remember, I gave all of you a sheet of paper and I told you you can write everything without naming yourself, because feedbacks are always anonymous. It's supposed to be anonymous. Or maybe, say for example, you are trying to talk about usage of drugs among youngsters. So don't expect that people will stand up and speak, or maybe people will raise their hand, nothing like that. So in that case, you have to make it anonymous. Okay, you have to keep the identity of your audience hidden when you are conducting this activity. So who is there, how many of them are there, is very important. And why this conducting activity is important? Because when you conduct activity, you involve your audience. Otherwise, your talk generally becomes very, very boring. If it's a 1 hour talk, and if you talk non-stop, one side, it's a kind of one-sided talk. After a point of time, your audience will lose interest, until if you don't involve them as well, if you don't make them part of your presentation. So it's a very good trick to make your audience as part of your presentation by conducting such activities. And those activities, what type of activity you are going to conduct depends on who is there and how many of them are there. Okay, say for example, you thought, you want to conduct one activity on common grammatical mistake. Okay, and you gave them not a common grammatical mistake. Say you gave them something like, let me think about the example. Okay, you conducted one. Okay, precaution about this COVID-19. Because you are giving one presentation on that, how to stop the spread and all these things. Okay, and you have written something on a piece of paper. Question: do you feel this? Are you doing this? Are you maintaining this? How many people like this? So there are many questions. You call it questionnaire. Okay, on one piece of paper there are many questions, and you expect people to respond to that. So it's a kind of questionnaire. So you prepared the questionnaire, and after reaching your venue, you came to know that some of your audience, they don't know how to read and write. So that's how it's important. So do you understand that you can't conduct that activity all across your audience? So it's very important to know who is there, how many of there, what is their level of education, what is their exposure, what is their mentality, okay, what is their social and cultural conditioning. Based on that, you can do all these things. So, and then what type of technology will be available, and what is the structure of the seating arrangement? What is the seating arrangement? As I told you, if you are at the center and people are sitting in circles, or it's a very narrow kind of room, and the last row, the last bench is far away from you. So, what kind of seating arrangement is that? So these are the questions that you ask as part of the planning, and we completed this portion. Okay, so in the next part, we are going to the next point, that is designing. Okay, so once you have all these answers of all these questions ready, you design your presentation. Okay, so the first point about designing is that yes, selecting main points depending on the time, depending on the people you are addressing, like what are the points you are going to include. Okay, as I told you that I taught formal letter 15 hours. That formal letter can also be taught in 1 hour. Okay, so based on that, I will design it. Okay, how elaborate it will be, how detailed it will be, based on the time and also the group of people I'm addressing. So based on that, you select your main points. What are the points you want to include? What are the points you don't want to include? Okay. And then related to it is the order of those points. In which order you are going to add it. Okay. Say, you must have seen those many movies. Okay, the order also is important. You have seen many movies. In some movies, you will see that the movie begins with the birth of the protagonist. By protagonist, I mean the main character. Okay, so the hero or the heroine is born, and then the movie starts. And as the protagonist grows up, the movie goes on. It can be like this, or it can also start with the death of the protagonist. Okay, so at the beginning itself, the director shows you that the protagonist is dying, and then the entire movie is in flashback. So you are not beginning with the beginning, you are actually beginning with the end, and then you are using flashback technique. Many a time you can also use when you can start at the middle, and then you can going back and then coming to the present, going back and then coming to the present. One very popular example is the movie Titanic. I don't know whether you have seen it or not. Movie Titanic begins with the present, and then for some time it goes back to the past and then come back to the present and then again goes back to the past. So it's a kind of movement of a pendulum. So there are many ways of telling a story. It's the same way, there are many ways you can arrange your points. So one way can be chronological. Okay, so wait. Okay, so once you have decided your points based on the time you have, based on the group of people you are addressing, you have your points ready. So you know that in 10 minutes I can present this many points. Okay, so once you have your points ready, you have to order them. Okay, in which order you are going to deliver it. Okay, say it can be chronological, it can be topical, or it can be problem solution. Based on your topic, you can choose. What is chronological? See, when I taught you CV, I followed the chronological pattern. Remember, I started with the components of CV and then finishing, then formatting, and then finishing. This is exactly the way you draft your CV, isn't it? First, you choose what information to add. You add those information, then you format them, lining, alignment, okay, font size, font big, colors, and all these things, and then you come to your finishing. So it's a chronological order that I followed in the case of CV. It's the same order, same chronological order I'm doing for presentation as well. See, the thing is that at 1:35 I presented the discussion outline. What are they? Planning, designing, and delivery. This is chronological order because you plan first, you get those answers ready, and then you design, and then you deliver. So do you understand that for CV and for presentation, I followed this chronological pattern. Which comes first? I will discuss that first. Another can be topical. When I taught you formal letter, it was topical. Okay, I divided into various topics. Like different, what are the formal letter based on purpose, what is the purpose, and then what is the component, and then what is the language, and then what is the structure. So I did not follow chronological pattern, I follow the topical pattern. Topical is the adjective form of topic. So my discussion was based on different components, different topic related to that particular main topic, and then there can be problem solution. Okay, say for when you want to pursue someone, when you want to convince someone, many a time you use this problem solution. Okay, say you are giving a presentation on corona. If you are following chronological pattern, what will you start? You will start with December 2019. Okay, what happened in 2019? Okay, and then what happened? What was the status during January? Okay, and then what happened in the month of April? That many cases were there, and people have started, researchers and scientists have started experimenting with the vaccine. And then what happened in the month of August? That this many cases have been reported, this many countries have been affected, and this is the success rate, and the vaccine experiment is in the second stage. Okay, so you are following the chronological pattern. If I give the presentation on corona, and if I design it, if I follow the topical pattern, how will I do it? First, I will do it. What are the symptoms? Okay, no, what is the origin? That is one topic. And then what are the symptoms? And then what is the vaccine? And what is and then statistics. So do you understand that statistics is one topic, vaccine is one topic, symptoms are one topic, origin and spread is one topic. So I'm not following chronological pattern. And then for certain topics, for certain situations, you can also use problem solution thing. Okay. Many a time when you are presenting on social issues and something like that, you follow this problem solution method. Okay, problem solution method, generally we do it with little advanced audience. Okay, say you know if you are trying to teach something like mathematical. Okay, I mean, where this problem and solutions are involved. Okay, many a time you give your audience a problem and they give you various solutions, and then you analyze all those solutions, and then you reach one kind of agreement or conclusion. So that's the kind of problem solution method. So first, you, based on the time and your audience, you decide these are the points I'm going to add, and then you decide in which order. Okay, whether it's going to be chronological, if it's chronotopical, what are the exact topics that I'm going to arrange my points on. And once you have this ready, you do this next in the chat box. Okay, many a time, I mean, whenever a presentation fails in whatever level, it mostly, the reason in most of the cases is that the presenter did not plan the speech, did not, I mean, there was no outline of the speech. Okay, the presenter studied a lot. Okay, it's just that he collected knowledge, but then he never organized that knowledge. Most of the time is that. Okay, many a time you must have attended those kind of teachers where you feel like the teacher knows a lot, but then, you know, the teacher does not know how to organize things. Okay, there is no structure in the delivery. So that is what, because, you know, probably the teacher did not spend much time in outlining the speech. Okay, so it's something like the it's this kind of flow chart that we make. Okay, then very roughly that first I'm going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to introduce the topic, and then I'm going to introduce. If I'm still audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I still audible? Okay. Because there is power cut, so suddenly the Wi-Fi was lost. Okay, so please let me know if my audio get disturbed. Okay, so you should, it's very important that you make an outline of the speech. What are the outline? It's something like, this is the main point I'm going to start my presentation with, and if there are any sub points, and then this is the next point, and this is the way I'm going to present. Okay, you must have seen this Wikipedia entry. Once you open any Wikipedia page, you will see that there is this headings, and then there is this subheadings. That's the kind of outline. That is what I mean by outline. Okay, the structure should be kind of, in your memory before you start presentation. So make an outline of the speech. And as I told you, if a talk fails, if a presentation fails, is in most of the cases it's because that there was no outline, or maybe there was no flow chart, or there was no action plan for that presentation. Okay, so this is the first point about designing. First, you select your main points and then your sub points, and in which order you are going to present them. And it's a very good idea. It's very important actually to write them down. Okay, and once you know that these are the points I'm going to add, this is the order, this is the order, this is the next thing you do. Collecting support material. Okay, see, the thing is that when I'm speaking on something, when I'm trying to make a point in every presentation, you are trying to make a point. Okay, either you are trying to create an emotion, if it's a farewell speech, or if it's an occasion, a marriage or something. So in that case, you are trying to create an emotion. Okay, when you are trying to persuade your audience. You are trying to create a kind of consciousness. Okay, so you know that this is I'm going to do. So once you have your points ready, you choose your support material. So what do you think are the support material? Any idea what are the support material? What are the support material? I mean, the material that I use to substantiate my point, to explain my point. So what can be the possible support materials? Any idea? Okay, very good. They should say citations from books and studies. Okay, and Ankur writes actual data, real life examples. Aruna who says experience or references with the statistical analysis of the data. Article from trustful resources, survey, etc. Very good, very good. So most of the people are saying that data or citations from books, isn't it? See, reference, data, citation, statistical analysis, article. But then do you think this will work with all kind of audiences? Do you think this data, reference, citation will work with a group of people who are illiterate? No, no. So what else can you do? See, the thing is that they don't understand statistical. See, imagine you are giving a presentation to third or fourth standard students. Okay, and they are very introvert. Imagine that they are in a very remote part, and they are very introvert, and you are giving this statistical analysis or your article citing factual data. Then what will you do? As I told you, you have to involve your audience. Okay, as remember, you told me that this is the job of the teacher to create interest. So do you think these things will be interesting for small kids or illiterate people? Animated video, very good, animated video. Yes, creating hypothetical situation to make my point understand. Yes, so it's a narration, animated video, very good, very good. Something else? Something else? So video is something that you can actually experiment on, but then for that you need to have this technological support, isn't it? So you can't use video in all the situations. Imagine you are giving a presentation in a school, and all the students are there, and there are some 500 students, and then they don't have that big auditorium. So what will they do? They will ask the students to sit on the field, or maybe they will ask the student to sit on the ground, okay, playing ground, and there you will give your presentation. So do you think you will get PPT for that animated video? But then you remember, you also told that a teacher should be humble and a teacher should be polite. So there you can't say that, oh my God, I came prepared with animated video, I don't have it. So what do you do in that situation? Story, exactly. Story is something which is fascinating. Storytelling, yes, Govind also says storytelling is something which works with almost all kinds of audience. We all connect with stories, all, starting from small children to aged people, literate people, illiterate people, highly educated people. Whatever it is, storytelling is something which I have felt is that it works in almost all the cases. Okay, so I present a few things, okay, a few things that you can include about as support material. I mean, whatever you have said is right. Okay, initially you said this research data and all these things. These are right, but then I wanted various kind of answer. So I told that, what will you do after this? And then you came up with animated video. And then I told that it's not that I rejected those answers. Those answers are right, but then I wanted you to come up with different type of answers. So that's the reason I was constantly correcting you. So yes, and these are the things. Okay, sound system. It's possible, say for example, you are giving you are delivering it in a very open daylight. Okay, so there the video might not work, no, videos work when it's a closed space, okay, where there is enough play of light and darkness. In an open air, even if the projector is working, the video won't work. So you can make it to focus on just a few sounds. Okay, and to interpret videos, you need to have a certain amount of knowledge. Okay, but then sound is something. This listening is something that appeals to many people. Okay, printout. Printout, as I told you, many a time it happens that the projector is not working. This printout is something which I keep telling students that if it's a very important presentation, once in a lifetime kind of presentation or career changing presentation, you are giving the presentation as part of your job selection. That kind of presentation, okay, very important presentation, where the review or the appraisal is very important after your performance. In those cases, even if you prepared PPT, print the slides of those PPTs. Okay, in case there is power cut, in case there is any technical glitch, if there is suddenly the technical support is off, you can use those printouts. We actually do it. Okay, it's not that I'm giving you very far-fetched ideas. Say for example, if it's your PhD defense, and if there are 20 to 30 slides, we print all those slides on paper. Maybe 3 or 4 copies, because that many examiners are there. So we do it. You know that it might be wasted, but then as I told you, this is once in a kind of, how many times you give defense for your PhD. So you do it. Okay, you take printout for those things. You can also do for, as I told you, imagine you are standing at the center and then there are people sitting in circles. So in that case, you can't use the projector, you can't use the PPT because you can't move the screen. But then if you think that if you show the picture, it is easier for you to explain, you can print the picture on a big paper and you can show it to your audience, because a paper is easily movable. You can just turn it towards your audience and you can show it to them. So in that case, printout helps. So printout helps for this exceptional kind of presentations where you can keep printout as backup, and you can also use printout to show certain very important images. So that is what. And then objects. Hold on, I need to check something. Just a minute. Okay, I'm sorry for the interruption. Sorry, I also need to take care of certain other things while taking the class. Okay, so I was talking about printout. Okay, so this is the situations where you can take printout. Okay, But then when you take printout, please make sure that they are large enough, okay, that can be visible from the last row or the last bench. And then there are objects. You can actually use objects, the real objects. I'll tell you one of my teachers, okay, he was a very dramatic presenter, okay. He was explaining gravity, I believe, okay, and he came to the class, and then he said that today I have got two very important objects with me to show you. Are not you curious to see it? And then he said that, see, I have a marble with you, with me. Okay. And imagine this marble is the earth. Okay. And then I have a ball with me. Imagine that this is the sun. So he was actually using real objects. So this actually works very well. Instead of showing a picture, or maybe instead of narrating it, you can actually show it. You can keep the ball in one hand and you can show the marble as earth rotating around. So you can use real life objects. So many a time people use it, okay. And these slides, the PPT slides, okay, the PowerPoint things. But then, as I told you, that you have to make sure that you have enough technical support, okay. The lighting of the room is fine, that everything is working. Okay, but then this object and printout, these are very common things that you can actually utilize. For sound system, you can use your mobile. Maybe if it's a large audience, you can maybe carry your own Bluetooth speaker. So you are not dependent on the organizers. So, but then for slides, you have to depend. Okay, and then there are a few other things like questionnaire. You know what I told you? What is a questionnaire? Okay, questionnaire it is a set of questions. Printed on a paper. Okay, so maybe you are going to conduct a kind of survey, and then you distribute the questionnaire amongst your audience. But then questionnaire, then one limitation with the questionnaire is that you can't do it with a large audience. Okay, so be very judicious that whether this questionnaire, because you know what, the responses that you got, you need to incorporate those responses in your presentation. If you take a survey, you have to make that survey justifiable, isn't it? I took the survey, but then the survey results I never included in my presentation. That's not a deal. Okay, so say for example, at the beginning of the class, I asked you for the first hour, I asked you a few questions like teaching, teacher, courses. So that's also a kind of questionnaire. Okay, I gave you questions, you responded, and as I told you, I knew that at the end of the day I'm going to get 12 or 15 responses, and I included them. Something like that. If you are conducting any survey, you are taking opinion, make those opinion count. Okay, otherwise your audience will feel left out. And then there's this open question. You can just ask open question, throw open question to your audience. That's how these are actually very good trick to involve your audience. Okay, because many a time you remember that the students have said that who is a good teacher? With student connect, with audience connect. So these open questions or maybe questionnaire, this is how you connect with your audience. And then voting by raising hands. As I told you, that not always you can go for the open question. Okay, say for example, you are meeting a group of people who are very introvert. As I told you, this 5th or 6th standard student in some school. So if you give them open question, they are not going to respond. As a presenter, you should know the mentality of your audience, just as a teacher you should know the mentality of the student. As a presenter, you should know the mentality of your audience. If you know that there are chances that this group of people, they're small kids, 5 and 6 standard students, they are seeing you for the first time, they don't even know what you are there for. So do you think if you ask them open question, they are going to respond? Not always. Maybe some students who are proactive, they will do, but then in most of the cases it might not work. It's not for all the schools. So open question, they are not going to respond. Maybe they will respond if it's questionnaire. But then, as I told you, you can't do it with a large audience. So, but then for that, what you can do is that you can ask them by raising your hands. But then, or maybe by saying, if it's bigger than that, you can maybe ask yes, no type question. You remember when you were in the first semester, I used to do it because I knew that if I ask you, did you understand the activity? Nobody is going to say something. So what I used to do, I don't think whether you remember it or not. I used to do it something like that. Do you think it's a group activity? You said no. Are you going to use your mobile? You said no. How much time you are going to take? You said 10 minutes. Something like that. So when they are in chorus, when people say in chorus, they feel little confident instead of standing up and saying things. So if I did it because you were first semester during that time, because I knew that we are new, you probably won't open up, so I have to go with something that is together. Okay, that's chorus. So when everyone is saying 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you feel little confident instead of standing up and saying. So for those situations when you think that this is the first time you are addressing these people, so it's good to take this yes no type of question rather than raising your hands. You know that even when I ask you people in the class, do you think you respond very promptly even after 1 year? No. So you have to keep these things in mind. You can't say that my audience did not respond. It's as presenter, it's your job to know, to try to judge, to try to probe the mentality of the kind of audience. That's the reason those questions are important as part of planning. So voting by saying yes, not no, voice response. Or as I told you, for some situations you have to take it anonymous survey for uh, for taboo like subject. But then whatever you are doing, you are telling stories, you are using slides, you are using sound system, you are using printout, okay, questionnaire, whatever you are doing, you have to make it count. Okay, their opinion, their yes or no, they are raising hands. This thing should be the result, the final result should be, there should be a purpose behind doing this activity, and it should be included in your presentation. So these are the kind of support material that we do. So based on that, we choose our support material and then we design our support material. Hold on, I have to go back to my class note for the next point. Okay, and then once you have your support material ready, so you know that I have this much of time, these are the points I'm going to add, this is the order, and this is the support material I'm going to use, and then this is what you do. You write down the presentation. It might seem absurd, but then uh, at the preliminary stage of the presenter, if you take your presentation seriously, we generally write down the presentation, at least not, if not the entire speech, but then at least the kind of flow chart. We do that. But then, as you remember, I told you about these TED Talks where they prepare for 6 months. Okay, they write down the entire thing. They write down, they practice it, and after 2-3 months, they kind of, it's automatically memorized. So it's good thing to write down the presentation. And how do you write it? You can follow that thing. You remember the kind of table I created for activity table? Yes. So there are these 3 columns. In the first column, there was the date, and then there was general, and then there was specific. You remember the structure of activity table? That's the reason I gave you this, because that type of table is actually very helpful for writing down the presentation as well. So how you write it? We write it in this way. 15 seconds or 30 seconds based on how much time you have. Imagine if it's a 3 minutes presentation, you can't give 30 seconds self-introduction. So you have to squeeze your self-introduction, you have to shorten your self-introduction to 15 seconds very quickly. My name is this, I'm from this. That's it. But then imagine if it's a kind of 2-hour presentation, then maybe you can explain or maybe you can introduce yourself with maybe 1 or 2 minutes or even 3 minutes. So you, on the first column, you write it like 30 seconds, and then in the general column, self-introduction, and then in the specific thing, how exactly you are going to introduce yourself. Because remember, this is the first sentence of your presentation. Very, very important. If there is disconnect, you lose that audience. Okay, so how exactly? Because there are various ways I can present myself. Okay, I can present myself as a teacher, I can present myself as a student, I can present myself as a professional, I can present myself as a family person, okay, I can present myself with my nationality. There are many ways I can present myself. So which particular component of our identity is important? Whether I'm going to say that I'm assistant professor, or I'm going to say that I teach English, or I'm going to say that I study here. So what exactly, how exactly which particular component of my identity is relevant? So you write the introduction, okay, like kind of self-introduction. And then next 15 seconds, you introduce the topic. You remember as the planning part, we discussed this, that you should write down your purpose, like you should write down your purpose either in 15 words or something that can be presented in 30 seconds. If you go back to your last class's notes, you will understand that this is how it's done. So 30 seconds. So 30 seconds or 15 words. So you write down the purpose, why you are doing it. Okay, what's the purpose? And then you have to also talk about the occasion. As I told you, it's again based on the time. So do you understand? On the left hand side, you say that how much time you are assigning. Okay, whether it's 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 1 minute, and then very general. You are going to introduce yourself, you are going to introduce the topic, you are going to introduce the occasion. What is that? And then in the specific part, what exact details you are going to add as part of that. Okay, at the initial stage of our teaching career, or maybe we actually do it. Okay, it's nothing absurd. You might think that teachers don't prepare for classes. It's not like that. Or it's again like those movies. You see those movies for 2 hours or maybe for 3 hours, but then there are a huge number of people working for 5-6 months to give you the experience of just 2 hours, isn't it? But then when you look at the movie, you don't think about all those things. You don't think about the preparation. Okay, so maybe they started thinking about the movie some 2 years back. Okay, and they wrote down the story, and then they wrote down the script, and then they thought about who will play the role, and then they talked to these people, and then there was shooting, and then there was editing, and then there was packaging, marketing, and all these things. You don't think about all those things when you look at the movie. You think that, okay, it's a brilliantly made movie, but then nobody's bothered to think that how it actually is made, isn't it? It's same for the presenter as well. When you look at the presenter, you might think that, okay, oh my god, he is a born speaker. No one is a born speaker. You might think that no expertise happens by accident. Okay, every expert, each and every expertise comes from hard work. There is no other shortcut. So if you think that someone is a good presenter, know that he or she has achieved it through hard work and through practice. There is nothing like someone is born with some expertise. No one is born with expertise. Whatever skill that is, we acquire skill. Communication skill, we acquire. We practice, we speak, we acquire. Okay, management skill, we acquire. No one is born with that skill. Okay, so please try to remember it. When I'm saying that all these questions, you might think that, okay, for a 5 minutes presentation, do you think I'm going to spend this much of time? But then, as I told you, for a 15 minutes talk, for a half an hour talk in TED Talks, they practice for 6 months. Okay, and we do it. There are people, okay, you might, when you think the finished product, you might not think about the process, but then this is the process. Okay, you write down everything and you practice time and again. So it's a very good practice that you write down the presentation, and this much of time you are allotting, and this is the details that you are going to add, and in this order you are going to present it to your audience. Okay. So it's something like when you write down the presentation, it's something like the flow chart. Okay, as I told you, it's activity table. Okay, this is going to have, I'm going to start my presentation with a story, and this is going to take this much of time, and this is the story I'm going to tell. Okay, and this I'm going to take a survey, and this survey is going to take this much of time, and I'll have to analyze the result of the survey, and this is how I'm going to make that survey relevant to my, and then I'm going to start my first point, these are the sub points, and I'm going to spend this much of time. So in what to include, it's a kind of flow chart, okay, flow chart of action. Okay, so then I'm going to show this object, then I'm going to tell this story, and maybe then I'm going to spend 5 minutes on PPT, something like that. So based on, and you can actually keep, I mean, when I started teaching, I used to keep a kind of index card, okay? Otherwise, I used to forget, because, once you start speaking in front of a group of people, you understand what it is to speak in front of a group of people, because you see everybody's face, their expressions. Some of them will make faces, some of them will, mock, give a very sarcastic smile. Some of them probably will imitate you. When you are speaking, some people might imitate you. There are mischievous people, and some will make fun. Some will probably get distracted. Some will start checking their mobile. Okay, some will look at another person in the audience, and they will probably smile at each other. So but these are very, very distracting. So it's possible that when you see these signs, you lose confidence. Many a time it happens that when you see someone smiling in the audience, when you see that your audience is kind of not paying attention, you lose. It affects your self-confidence. It affects your performance immediately. So that you don't forget anything, it's a good idea to write the points, like not the points that you are going to talk about. It's the actions. Okay, first story, then slide 1, and then a narration, and then slide 2, and then this. Okay, it's just that just few words in that index card, and not even that you carry that index card in your hand. Okay, it's something kept on the table, so that you can just quickly look at it and you can remember, okay, I have to tell the story first, because many a time it happens that after the presentation you remember, oh my god, I wanted to show this object and I forgot. I actually was carrying the mobile to show it to my audience, but then I forgot to show my mobile. Or maybe you wanted to show particular kind of image that was stored in your mobile. It's possible that you might forget out of tension, out of anxiety. So if you just write a picture in the mobile, so you know that. So it's just that it's not your speech that is written on the index card. It's just the action that is followed, that has to follow the sequence. So it's, as I told you, it's something like the similar kind of activity table, and that's the reason I gave you the activity table, because once you know how to maintain it, what is general, what is specific. I told you that there is this general to specific pattern in many places. Even for presentation, we follow this general to specific pattern. See the way I have presented it. I told you that this is my discussion outline, and this is the first point, and then within this first point there are the sub points. So I'm moving from general to very specific, isn't it? So you can also follow that at the very beginning you say that I'm going to talk about this, and then talk about it. So it's also make your presentation easier, very structured. It's easier to remember for you, and it's easier to follow for the audience, audience to follow. So that is what you do in the next part. Okay, and when you write down the presentation, a few things what you should start with. The chat box. How to introduce the self, how to introduce yourself, how to introduce the topic for presentation. So you introduce the name of the presenter, the topic, and the purpose or the occasion. Why are you presenting it? You are trying to sell your software, or you trying to create a kind of consciousness, or you want to inform your students? What exactly? Okay, so your name, what is that? So I am this, I am here to present you the timetable, so that you can follow the timetable, and as you are the first year students. And then I'm also going to tell you about the exam pattern, because the exam is going to begin after the first month. So you tell your name, your topic, and your purpose. So it's very clear. for your audience to follow up. Then this is so they are kind of mentally prepared that this is going to come after this point, this is going to come after this point. So, and about self introduction, there are many ways you can say. You can just say that I'm Shoham Chaudhary, or okay, you can say that my name is Rahul Roy. Okay, or maybe you can also say this is Abhijit Singh. Okay, my name is this, I am this, this is this, something like that. But never say myself Arijita Pradhan. Myself Arijita Pradhan is grammatically wrong. Okay, we don't introduce ourselves with myself. That is, please remember, this is grammatically wrong. You might have seen it somewhere, I don't know where, but then this is very wrong. Okay, just say it in this way, that I am Shaunak Sen and I'm here to present on this particular topic, and at the end of the presentation I want to inform you, something like that. Okay, or maybe my name is Debangshi Nath, or this is Prakash Nath here, but never myself. Okay, when people start with myself this, there are people in the audience who know that okay, this person is not prepared. Okay, they did not do the basic homework of self introduction. So, and also you remember in the month of April I shared you this many video lectures. Okay, and in one of those lectures there is one topic, how to introduce yourself. Okay, where the ma'am Sunita Roy ma'am, I guess, she is teaching how to introduce yourself. So you can go back and check. So during that time, I shared this listening activities. There are many video lectures. I guess 85 or something. I told you that you should listen to this. So there is one point, how to introduce yourself. So wait. So in today's class, we did this. We started discussing the designing. And under designing, I have included 7 points. Okay. And amongst those 7 points, I have kind of discussed the first 4, and I'm left with 3 in the chat box. So under designing, there is selecting main points, selecting support material, writing the presentation, and how to introduce the topic and the purpose or the occasion of it. But then many a time it's not that you have to always talk about the purpose at the beginning of it. Maybe you can start with an activity and talk about the purpose later, the way I did it for this class. When I talked about this teaching and all these things, I did not tell you about the purpose. I told you about the purpose, but then the other purpose was kind of hidden. So I conducted the activity first, and then I told you about the purpose. So you can also do that. Not necessarily you always have to talk about the topic first. Okay, maybe you can create a kind of little drama, but then you can't do it with a new audience. Otherwise, if you are addressing that audience for the first time, your audience will be baffled. Because I know you for more than 1 year, so I know that we know each other, so maybe I can go with that. But then for a new audience, it might not work. So please keep that in mind, that if you are addressing a group of people for the first time, they might not respond. So plan accordingly. Then in the next class, we will talk about the deciding on presentation aids, and during presentation, and how to conclude. Okay. So if you have any question, you can ask me. Else, the class is over. It's 2:29. The class is over. And if you have questions, stay back and ask me. That's it. In today's class, I could not involve you much I generally try to involve. I love to listen to your voices or even chats. I mean, that is the only feel I get about you being present there. But then, I wanted to finish presentation before vacation, because there is also delivery part left, which is huge, and I don't want to stop at the middle somewhere, because after we meet after vacation, it will be very difficult to go back to that track. So it's good probably to finish presentation before vacation. So that's the reason I'm rushing a bit, and I could not involve much activities like other classes. I understand that it might be a little boring for you listening non-stop for 1 hour, but then that's the reason that I want to finish presentation before vacation, because there will be break for 1 month, and then I might go for one course, so that will take 2 more weeks. So there will be a disconnect for a long, long time. So I'm little rushing. I hope you will be a little patient. So if you have any question, you can ask me. Else the class is over. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.